Well, hello everyone. My name is Martha Novak, and this is Real Talk with Martha Novak. We're talking about high conflict individuals. We've been doing this for 2 weeks prior to today's show. I hope to finish up today. We're going to give you some characteristics today, talk about a lot of things, quite frankly. But if you want to know more about this, I suggest you certainly listen to the first show, if not the second, that tells you actually how to handle high conflict individuals. If we have time for it today, we will do so. However, if we don't have time for it, please go back and listen to those other shows. I think it's really important. One does not get everything that we're talking about in the first show. We just don't. I mean, I'm trying to cram a lot of material in for you. Sometimes it takes several listening experiences, you know. We are delighted to have you with us. My name is Martha Novak, and we talk about all sorts of things. And all of our shows are archived on Blog Talk Radio and Facebook Live and on YouTube. They go right to YouTube. Now, sometimes we lose one feed or another, and I don't know why. We're trying to figure it out. I think I have it figured out in another location we are, but when we're in this location, we still lose things from time to time. So for heaven's sakes, go to my website, which is marthanovak.com. That's Novak.com. Under radio shows on that website, oh, hello, Ellen. Oh, I'm so glad that you joined us today. Under that website, you're going to see radio shows, and go under radio shows and just have it available to toggle back and forth if indeed we lose each other on one feed or another, okay? Thank you so much. I have the most flexible listeners in the world, and I thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Now, let me do a quick prayer to put us all on the same page, and then we go forward with more of our work on high conflict personalities, okay? All right. Dear God, who is all there is, you who are all we are, and all everything is in this world, we thank you so much for our lives just as they are. We all want more, so we open to that now. We say yes to all possibilities, and then no if it's in our best interest. But we too often say no first. We surrender this to you, asking that we be open and aware and discerning and smart with all the smarts you've given us one way or another, that we may thrive in you. Now, we ask that we know nothing, for it is you through us and through all things that know it all. And often our brains get in the way, and they tell us things. They absorb things from the egoic child's mind that just slow us down, cause us to wait, and are good excuses not to move. Thank you so much, dear God, for challenging us in this, that we may be aware of it and change. For change is good, and all of it takes us to what we want in you. But we have to cooperate first. So show us how. And so it is. Amen. Thank you so much for listening today, ladies and gentlemen. A quick catch-up. We are taking this lecture and the last 2 lectures off a book I found that I thought was a very good book. It's by Bill Eddy, who, as I understand it, is a lawyer, a teacher, I think, at Pepperdine University. And he's the founder and president of the High Conflict Institute. It's actually a thing. He is a senior family mediator and a family law specialist. He's worked as a clinical social worker, and he's part-time faculty at Pepperdine. So we think this is a very good book. The name of the book is 5 Types of People Who Can Ruin Your Life. The only thing I really don't like about this book is that title, because You keep in mind that I bring you, I think, very interesting material that I find out there in the world. However, my job, my end result is always consciousness and enlightenment. That's what I teach. That's what I help you achieve. That's what I coach. That's what I do in many different aspects of my methodology. Therefore, because I do that, and that is the end result, I always have something to say about what's usually out there. So I have something to say about this title. Nobody can ruin your life but you. Now, granted, you may have a high conflict person that does not want help and does not want to change and wants to do a lot of these characteristics, but that doesn't mean you can't move away from them, okay, in a safe and healthy way. So, come on, kids. We've got to get very serious about another aspect of God. Sometimes we leave out. You know what that is? Discernment. Discernment. Getting signals and listening to them and trusting our guts. That's really important. Okay, now, there were 4 characteristics that go across the board for high conflict individuals. Now, we can have these things too that are not high conflict, but they are exaggerated and they always go with a high conflict person. The first one is lots of all or nothing thinking. You'll see them say words like, you never, you always, right? All or nothing thinking. Second characteristic is intense and or unmanaged emotions. All right. Third one, extreme behavior and sometimes even threats. And number 4, a preoccupation with blaming others, particularly their targets of blame. Who are their targets of blame? It might be someone they work with. It might be someone that is in their home. It might be a spouse. Nevertheless, those are 4 primary characteristics of the high conflict person. Now, the high conflict personality, Mr. Eddie, Dr. Eddie, whatever he is, and excuse me for not knowing, lists 5 personality types that are often high conflict, or that can be high conflict. They don't have to be, all right? And keep in mind that in my book, with what I do for a living, we all have all of the personality types that the DSM talks about, all of the personality disorders. We just have them to a more or less extent. But we've got them all. Everybody does. And we don't really heal until we stop being afraid of that and look at ourselves, right? And do something about that. So the 5 disorders that he talks about that can cross that line and go into high conflict personalities and narcissism. Remember, I've talked to you about it before. Narcissism, there are 3 kinds of narcissists. The exhibitionist narcissists, the P.T. Barnum, the one that tells you how great they are all the time, very overt about it. The closet narcissist, which doesn't look like the narcissist. They look very nice, but still yet, it's all about them, right? And all about their grandiosity and them building themselves up. That's the closet narcissist. And the third thing is the toxic narcissist, which thank God most of us don't see. This is the kind of narcissism that often goes with the antisocial personality disorder and does terrifically bad things to people. So you've got narcissism. You've got borderline personality is the other personality what he says is disorder. You know, the DSM calls it a disorder. I have a problem with that as well because it's more of a defense that I see. Now, you keep in mind I have a different end that I work. I work with energy. But disorders is a misnomer to me because I find people that have these things and we all have them, as I said, but we are all having them to more or less degrees. The people that have these things are, particularly in a moderate to severe case, are more ordered. They just look disordered from society, but they are more ordered in their control of their environment, themselves, and other people. So I think disorder is a difficult word for me to get my mind around with that. So I call them defenses. You'll hear me go back and forth because I'm also trying to use Dr. Eddy's or Mr. Eddy's language. So narcissist, borderline. The next one is paranoid, the paranoid personality. This is someone who worries that something or someone is out to get them. Fourth is the antisocial personality. You hear a lot about that. Certainly it's the Ted Bundys of the world. It's also, though, the Bernie Madoffs of the world. There are two kinds. There's some that are, like cruelty, and there are some that just are so self-absorbed and without a remorseful character that they turn into a Bernie Madoff. There are also lesser antisocial personalities that are usually in power in some way, like our doctors, our lawyers, our guru leaders, our ministers, our priests. These can be antisocial as well. Are all of them? Absolutely not. There's a small percentage of all of these things that are high conflict. There's a small percentage of all these things. If you'd like to know the percentages, read Dr. Eddy's book. Again, 5 types of people who can ruin your life by Bill Eddy, E-D-D-Y. I do think it's a good book. So, the next personality type that can be high conflict is histrionic. Now, histrionic means a dramatic personality. This is someone who would rather throw off on you and make a good story at a party than stick with the truth and be a little less interesting. This is someone who always has to have a crisis, always has to be in some sort of drama. When they don't create it exteriorly, it'll be on the inside. They'll worry, right? It's the boy who cried wolf thing. Not a good idea. So those are the 5 types that are, according to Bill Eddy, can easily cross the line and go into high conflict personalities. Now, that's catching you up. We're starting with high conflict personality. Oh, we've got a call first. Well, we were going to start with number 13. Why don't we go to our call first and see who's here and answer any questions that they have? And hello, I'm talking to a 267 exchange, and my name is Martha Novak. May I ask who's calling? Hello? Hello? You on the line? I am delighted that you all tune in to the show. I am really, truly am. If you'd like to listen without being on the air, and that's what I think is happening here, please go to my website, marthanovak.com, Novak. Go under radio shows. You'll see 2 buttons, one that says Blog Talk Radio and one that says Facebook Live. And you can come into our show through either means. And I'm going to leave this open so you can hear me, 267. But that is just a nice... Hello? Are you there?
Oh, yes. Were you taking questions?
Yes, I am talking to people today. My name is Martha Novak. What's your first name?
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I walked away for a minute. Yes, I was wondering if you
Can I have a first name, darling? Hang on, let me interrupt you. I need a first name so I can talk to you.
Donna from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Donna from Philadelphia. That's all I need. Thank you, darling. Okay, what would you like to talk about?
Yes, I want to know if you could see me moving up to the mountains way this summer.
Permanently?
Yes.
Not really. I don't know why I say that. I think you'll go, and I think that's marvelous. But permanently, I'm not so sure about. I think there'll be something that might interfere with that. So stay open. All right. That doesn't mean that just because this year you might not get there permanently, but another year you will. So that's just the first thing that I pick up. Okay.
Okay. Do you know what might interfere?
It feels like it comes through a person. Do you understand?
Okay. I'm a male.
What?
A male person?
Probably.
Yes. Okay. All right then.
All right, darling. I just wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket early. Just wait a little bit. Okay?
Oh, okay. Is it that he's going to change his mind about me going up there? Or?
Darling, I'm very careful about saying things like that on the air because a lot of people can hear this. But I will say there is a problem that will surface, even though it's not right now, and that you should be very circumspect and not jump on top of this. That's what I'm saying. You should look after yourself the whole time you are in relationship with anybody, and you make sure that it's fair for everybody. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a little glitch somewhere along the line, and I don't think you're going to move up there permanently right now. So let's let this play out. Why do you have to know everything ahead of time, you see? Because, darling, that's the question here. That's why you're not loving yourself, because you need to let this develop organically. You need to not worry about anything. You need to be very smart and look after yourself and, be in a relationship at the same time. That's more interesting to me than what's going to happen, because you'll have your choice. You'll see, you'll be fine through this choice if you're smart. If you just don't sell everything right now and go, you'll be fine. You understand?
Oh, right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure nothing was going to happen to me. I didn't understand. Okay.
Darling, it's so interesting, Donna, because we all want assurances from God, but we already have that. And you've got a good brain and a good heart and a good mind, and you just need to make wise decisions for yourself. It's all built into you. Now use that, okay?
Okay.
All right, sweetie. Take care, and I hope everything works out eventually the way you want it to. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, dear. I'm going to hang up now, but if you want to listen to the rest of the show, please go to the radio show on my website, marthanovak.com, and you can either enter the radio show and listen to it, or see it on Facebook Live, but not be on the air. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, dear. Bye-bye. I am live, as Donna showed you today. I'm at 347-850-1647. You keep in mind that what I do for a living is I certainly I don't mind answering questions like Donna just posed, but the answer to that question is, why don't you trust yourself, and that we need to shore that up. Why would you need someone to tell you the way it's going to be? Why not Just pace yourself. Why not believe in fairy tales? Why not create a sound relationship? Why not look for someone who is that stable? Why not have your eyes open when you go in? Why not find somebody you can talk to about this to create a wonderful model of love? So I'm certainly more interested in questions like that, the backstory, you know? All right. So let's go into talking about these high conflict characteristics. Now, this is in the appendix of Dr. Eddie's book. I'm going to call him Dr. Eddie book, Dr. Eddie, because I don't know, but they're in the appendix, and I think they're really good. We've gone through 12 of them last week, and now we're going to go into number 13. So here we go. You might want to put, if you're not going to buy the book, and you certainly can go buy that book, but you might want to have a pen and pencil, pen and paper ready to write some of these things down. Number 13. The high conflict personality may call others crazy when it's suggested that they are being inappropriate. People like this don't like to hear negative things about themselves, so they oftentimes come out swinging. They'll call you crazy. Keep in mind, I'm quite compassionate about people like this, and the reason I say that is these are people that in their childhood, for whatever reason, never learned to work through a problem. Now, I'm going to say with all of us, none of us have learned to work through the adult problems that we face. The whole point is to find out how to work through those problems now that you are in the adult mind. The adult mind starts forming in your 20s, by the way. So you're not even capable of doing that. You're certainly not capable of seeing the large picture. You're only capable of seeing the appearance of things as a child, and the appearance of things makes everything appear only one way and gives you very few options to deal with it. For example, blaming another. Here we are. They may call you crazy when it's suggested that they're behaving inappropriately. I think of a woman I know that I don't know her husband, but she told me this story a while back, and I thought it was very dear. She's not a client, but she was saying that what she does not like about her husband is that whenever he goes to a buffet, he stands at the buffet table and hogs it and doesn't let anybody else come in his little area, and he stuffs his face the whole time. He doesn't talk to people. He doesn't do anything. Certainly boorish behavior, right? I say, yes, of course. And she said, I've tried to talk with him. I've nagged him. I've done everything I can. There's nothing I can do about that. And I think it's enormously interesting to realize that he does not hear. He doesn't change. He doesn't want to. Now, if he's high conflict, he's going to call her crazy or come after her for his bad behavior. You understand? It just may be that he gets clueless around food. I don't know what his problem is, and certainly I'm not calling him high conflict. But I am saying that hypothetically, if he did go after her once she's tried to talk to him about that and does not change or shift in any way, we might be looking at a high conflict individual. My advice to her, by the way, was this. We can nag until the cows come home, and once you put something like that on the table, they'll either get it or they won't, and repeating yourself just makes you a nag and makes you unpleasant and actually drives a rift. I think with all partnerships, including mine and Michael with me and I with him, they're just things that you love enough, you love the other person enough to look away from. That's not very good grammar, but that's what I'm trying to say. There's sometimes you just need to look away if something bothers you, because the other side of it is to create a problem. And why would you do that when both of you are needing to feel safe with each other? You see? Okay. Number 14. The high conflict person may bully others but defend themselves by saying they were bullied. I have in other shows talked about a syndrome called DARVO, D-A-R-V-O. It's an acronym for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. Let me give that to you again. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. That's why they call it DARVO. So this is someone who will immediately, when you try to tell them something, deny that that's true. They will attack you, possibly for it, verbally, physically, or any other, or emotionally. And they will all of a sudden reverse it so that they are the victims and you are the offender, when it is quite the other way around if we looked at what was going on realistically. That's DARVO, and that I think that's very much this number 14, may bully others but defend themselves by saying they were bullied. I would certainly, if I had a client in front of me and I saw that that was going on, I'd look at DARVO to see if they had it. Now you keep in mind as we talk about these things, I want everybody to realize there's help for all of this. Everything, no matter how entrenched, is energy. And all you need to heal that is a good guide that will kick your butt if you're doing anything and challenge you on that, and the willingness to be challenged and the intention to heal. Now, a lot of high conflict individuals are so entrenched, and because of this, they don't seek help. You know, and you keep in mind too, there are high functioning high conflict persons and low functioning high conflict persons. So what we want you to do is simply recognize the high conflict person. There's a way to deal with it. You can hear how to deal with people like this, and if I have time I'll go back into it. In that first episode 2 weeks ago, that was the first week in, I believe, in March. So please go back and listen to the show. Number 15. High conflict personalities will be preoccupied with blaming others, even for very small and non-existent events. Now, I have a theory about that. And my theory is that they have never learned to work through anything. Now, the interesting thing is nothing's what it seems here. As a matter of fact, most human beings argue about something, and it's not about that at all. It's about something else. You know, you may argue over that your wife or husband haven't stacked the pans under the stove in the exact right way. But there really could be anxiety playing out, say, in a financial arena, or you worried about your child, or something else. You're worried about whether they're going to fire you at work. So these kinds of things are often complained about. It's a way to relieve our anxiety, right? Without really facing the problem. The healthier you are emotionally, the more you'll say, oh, wait a minute, I see what I'm doing. Thank you so much for that, darling. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Here's what I'm anxious about. Let's talk about that, or let me work out that. But it immediately relieves the situation. When I see someone, I call it in my work scattershotting, when everything is wrong, okay? Every little thing is wrong. This is wrong, that's wrong, this is nothing but complaints. You know, there's anxiety in a different area that they're not getting to. It's not about any of those things. It's about something else. And again, the healthier you are emotionally, the better you can say, ah, here it is. Here's that something else. Now, sometimes, by the way, you have to learn how to do that. Almost all the time, you have to learn how to do that. That takes a great deal of emotional maturity and discernment for you to self-analyze and see that. And a marvelous therapist certainly is great at that, because most of the time we don't want to be that close to our anxiety, so we don't want to know what it is. We'd rather argue it about the pans under the stove, you see? So I think that's extremely important to realize, that often the argument is not about what they're arguing about at all. And this is about someone that really doesn't know how to work through things. Now, Dr. Eddy says here, they'll be preoccupied with blaming others even for smaller non-existent events. And that is true. We've got a selective reality in our heads. All of us do. We all do. Consciousness work, though, is about coming into authentic reality with our authentic selves, and having those two things meet, and not having the selective reality anymore. But that's where blaming others for existent events can come to the fore, in that selective reality. Selective reality isn't reality. It is where we go to keep ourselves safe, and to blame others so we can keep ourselves safe, and where we have arranged the world in our way, about any subject, by the way, so that we can put one foot in front of the other, because we haven't learned the deeper aspects of our personalities and our spiritual beings in physical form, and we're not cooperating with Spirit. Every single thing I'm talking about right now is not a cooperation with Spirit. And you keep in mind that it is the cooperation with our highest self. That's what I'm talking about, is Spirit. It is the cooperation with that love-centered aspect of us that gives us the nice life that is indeed a lot easier than we allow life to be. Okay. Number 16. The high conflict person has lots of energy for blaming others because they don't spend it on self-reflection. These are people that really say they don't like self-reflection. Now, I'm not saying that the study was high conflict. I guess I should say this. I always look a little askance at all studies, because what did they include and what did they not include? What did they take into consideration and what did they not? But there was a study done several years ago, I think within the last 5 or 6 years. I want to say, I'm terrible with time, but anyway, they asked individuals, and as I said, were these high conflict individuals, low conflict individuals? What are we talking about here? They asked them to come into a blank room. There's nothing in the room. A chair, I think, a small table with a device on it or something. They were given a button, maybe nothing but the button. They were told that they had to spend 15 minutes in there alone with their thoughts. But if they just couldn't stand it and they needed stimulation, if they pushed the button, they would be shocked, have an electric shock. And a lot of people, in fact, more people than not, push the button. You can't spend 15 minutes alone with your thoughts. That's a problem here. You need to be able to self-reflect without freaking out. So this is absolutely an exaggerated version when they don't spend time on self-reflection. That is the high conflict person. They eschew it. They don't want to know. They don't want to know anything bad about themselves. And I'm going to tell you something right now, guys. And this is the God's truth. We're bad. We're good. We're petty. We're altruistic. We are the whole gamut of everything. We are the aspect of God known as us. You have two minds. You have the egoic child's mind that's a very fear-based mind, and that is the part of all of us, every adult walking the planet, that thinks like a child. This is a self-indulgent mind. It's all about you, or it's all about the other person at the expense of you, which makes it all about you because you're the victim. It's all about us. It is fear-based, no matter what we call it. There's another mind, and it's in you, and it's strong, and that's the whole reason you're listening to a show like this. And that is the highest self mind. This is the part of you that is love-centered. This is the part of you that is altruistic. This is the part of you that has all the talents and gifts and abilities of God in perfect balance. This is the part of you that is always working from a formula. The formula is me and you together creating a situation to win. We both win-win. We create a win-win result. It may be that we disagree, but we agree to disagree. You see? So that's the higher mind, the highest self mind. Every person walking the planet has these two minds. And our journey is to go from the egoic child's mind, the fear-based self, to the love-based self. It's a privilege to walk this, but high conflict people don't know that. They're busy doing what they've always done to survive and to protect themselves. And sometimes it is to make themselves normal, and sometimes a lot of hurt of other people are in this. Can they shift and change? Perhaps. But again, there has to be a willingness and an intention. And what you can do with this is realize what's going on and then make your decisions accordingly if you are in relationship with him. It's amazing how many high conflict people there are walking the planet. In my advanced class, when I taught this, someone's two bosses were this. Someone else's husband was this. Somebody else's wife was this. I mean, they are here. Is it going to ruin your life? Are you heading for the divorce courts, or do you have to get another job? No, you need to know how to handle this. If it's bad enough, I do suggest you get out. If it's not bad enough, there's a way to work with this. I have a funny story about this that just occurred to me. You know, I do some corporate work. I coach corporations. And one of my very big corporations, I was very close to the woman who, she's retired now, but she used to be head of the marketing department there. And so she would bring me in to do these marvelous seminars. I had so much fun with this group of people. There was one man, I remember his name, maybe I'll call him something else. Let's call him Joe, okay? There was one man who was high conflict to the max. And every time, you know, we did any kind of seminar, he always complained about it. Oh, what a waste of time. I was terrible. I was so off base, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When he was asked, by the way, he didn't offer it unless he was asked. The irony here is I made more money off poor old Joe. He would just be horror-struck to realize this. because nobody could work with him, and they'd all come to me through my friend. They'd all come to me to learn how to deal with him, and I would show him, because these people are enormously vulnerable. That's what they don't understand. When you recognize what they are and why they're working from the programming they're working from, you can get to them. So, this guy was certainly a narcissist, and he was very histrionic. So all I did was show someone how to work narcissism and histrionics and how to work with it. It was the opposite from what he would have wanted. All right. Guys, self-reflection is a good thing. We're all good and bad, light and dark, every single one of us. And it's not going to kill you to look in the dark places. It doesn't mean, you see, what happens is oftentimes we have crossed a line in our minds. Now, what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean. I can have a moment thinking, I'm the greatest person in the world. Narcissism. I do whatever better than anybody else. Narcissism. But when I cross the line into I am that instead of I have that, I did that, that's when it starts getting very dangerous. When you become the I am of something. I thank you so much, darling, for that. You don't want to cross that line. Sure, have narcissism. Sure, have some of these other things that we're talking about. Sure, have anything. Sure, be bad. Sure, be good. Sure, be this. Sure, be that in one moment. But do not turn that into an I am permanently. Now, here's the problem with this. The reason you're running away, or somebody's running away from self-reflection, is they've crossed that line and they don't even realize it. So they don't want to hear anything because it will mean something that they don't want to hear about themselves, because they already believe that that's what they are. So there's a distortion in the thinking here, because we have to straighten that out. That's not the way anybody is born to be, most people. There's still an argument with the antisocial personality about whether they are born that way or made. The difference between psychopathy and sociopathy, they think, is that sociopathy has something to do with the environment influencing you, and psychopathy is possibly the environment and possibly a genetic problem. It has been argued about for quite a long time here about whether psychopaths, say the Ted Bundy types, are ill to begin with. Is there something wrong with them and their brains when they came in? Possibly. I know that they've done studies where they fired a gun behind psychopathic diagnosed people, and if you knew a gun was going to be fired behind you, up in the air, or at a target, not you, by the way, you would flinch, you would startle when that gun went off because it's so loud, right? But there's a reduced startle startle response with some psychopaths. So what created that? You know, we're all still arguing about that. I happen to think it might be both. I think the answer to a lot of things is always both. That there is some outside influence, but some inside influence as well. But I'm not a psychologist, I'm just an energy worker, so we'll see. Number 17, High conflict persons will have targets of blame who are intimate others or people in positions of authority. Those are generally the ones that are high conflict, that they're targeted. Certainly, that does not feel good. I'm going to say to you that unless this is a very developed high conflict personality, you don't have to play that game with them. There are families that are blaming families. You just grew up blaming. And it must be stopped, though, for you to have a good relationship with people. But even if you are the target of blame once in a while, there are blamers, and for it to work, there are blamees. And what is wonderful about consciousness work is that it teaches you what you are and who you are and what you're responsible for and what you're not responsible for. It teaches you to be a pretty big person to say, "Oop, I did that. I'm very sorry. That was me. I am totally accountable for that." And for you to realize, excuse me, I'm not going to take the blame for that, because that's just absolutely not true. When you want to talk about it and hear what is true, you calm down, come back to me, I'll explain it all. But you don't have to participate in that blame dance. Now, I want to say that most people that are in the ego child's mind are blamees, and they take it on. So one of the things that I find enormously valuable about consciousness work, and the work that we do here, and many people do, I think, around the globe right now, but certainly we do at Martha Novak, LLC, if you all want to look us up, is we teach you how to not be the blame-e anymore. We are talking about getting you to your authentic self, dropping the pretense, being marvelous in your own right, living who you are as the spiritual being in physical form as much as you possibly can. By the way, this is not a light switch you turn on. It is something that develops over time as you strip away all this egoic child's mind thing. And then you find yourself very clear about what you've done, what you haven't done, whether you'll accept blame for this because you are culpable or whether you are not. So I pass that on to you. People in positions of authority often certainly are the targets of blame as well. These people sometimes are still fighting their mothers and fathers or sisters of brothers or whoever was out there that they felt was dominant. Keep in mind some of these personality types are quite bullies. They are bullies. So they don't like another bully. They don't like that at all, or somebody who appears strong. And sometimes a bully gets very confused and thinks somebody is a bully when they're just a strong person. They're just a strong person. Are they dominating, or are they just a strong person? Here's the difference. If you're just a strong person and somebody has a better idea, no problem. Switch, change, easy to do. If you're a dominant person, if you're somebody that is a bit of a bully, you're going to have to be right, and you will not change as easily. You understand? Good. All right. Number 18. High conflict individuals will focus on a single target of blame and try to control, remove, or destroy that person. Those three things: control, remove, or destroy that person. Now, certainly remove and destroy that person is pretty extreme behavior, and that's some of the extreme behavior we've talked about. But control, too, is not pleasant. Nobody needs to be controlled that is a thinking adult and who is trying to make their way and who is doing some self-analysis and that kind of thing, or analysis with a coach. No, you don't need someone trying to control you. And, we got to face any issues that say I need controlling. Whoa, what? You need controlling? You need someone to tell you what to do? I've lost two dear friends this last year. Last year, not this year so far. I lost two dear friends. They did not live the way I wanted them to, the way I, in my mind, perceived health and well-being and how to look after oneself. I could have judged the hell out of them and moved away from them, or I could have done what I did, which was love them, because everyone, and I believe this totally, is entitled to live and to die the way they choose. We're all entitled to live and to die the way we choose. Now, I don't want anybody interfering with that and my choices. And if I don't want anybody interfering with that, I can't do that to someone else. So it was quite the remarkable thing. It isn't that, you see, I think everybody knows everything. These women that I lost, my good friends, we were close enough for me to look in their eyes and for them to tell me, I know what I'm doing, I've got to do this. And for me to accept that. Don't you see? I think death, sometimes I think separation, I think all sorts of things that happen in life are there for us to have the ability to love more deeply and in a different way than the child would. Because I know a lot of people who try to love you through control. I have a dear friend who, when and I do think she's a dear friend, I just do not tell her this part of me anymore, because I realized when I was first making this sweet friend of mine that the way she loves is to tell you totally what to do and be quite adamant about it. So as a girlfriend to a girlfriend saying, I'm hurting because this is happening to my friend, instead of saying, oh, darling, I'm so sorry that's happening, and I've had similar things happen, and oh, I'm sure you'll get through it. She comes back with a list of 15 things you should do. She's already on the phone calling everybody, trying to control and affect change. She doesn't want to hurt, therefore she doesn't want you to hurt. She doesn't want you to go in that area. And when you understand that, you can go, oh, I get it. I get it. I had a great godmother, Natasha Davison was my godmother. She was actually a white Russian. Her whole family was killed. She was reared by a loving uncle, Uncle Peter. One time in my teenage angst, I remember sitting on her off-white sofa and talking about how all these people, they didn't love me and I wasn't appreciated and blah, 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 all that histrionic, by the way, stuff. And I'll never forget when Natasha said to me, she said, darling, why are you judging everything? She said, just accept the love that people have for you. When you find someone that can accept all of you, the light and the dark and everything, you have found a true friend. But all love is acceptable. All love is what people can give, and you're the same way. She was right. And I think that's an extremely important thing to realize. We must accept love from everyone. Now, back to the high conflict individual. They don't. This is another part of our age-appropriate training and learning that has been left out. They don't know how to work through problems. They don't know how to take a chance on that kind of love and appreciation. They're too busy judging it and having targets of blame, even back then. And maybe they came from parents that showed them how to do that instead of loving fully. 19. High conflict individual may assault their targets of blame financially, reputationally, legally, physically, I want to say emotionally, verbally, lots of other ways. Certainly I think this is extreme behavior. And, you know, I am always surprised how people make themselves vulnerable to people, particularly innocents make themselves vulnerable to people they don't even know yet. You see, if you fantasize about somebody being a nice person, being the one, or being just this paragon of virtue, and that's a fantasy, and a fantasy is its own reward, it's not reality, and you give them too much information about you, why would you be surprised after you've loaded the gun and put it in their hands that they turn it against you? You don't know those persons. Just as I said to Donna, you got to be careful, babe, about who you know. You got to know them for a good length of time and see them in every walk of life and in every situation. Now, in the first show that I did on this subject, we did talk about, and I think I'm probably going to do one more show on this subject, because I'm certainly not going to get through all these 40 characteristics. But I want to go back at the end and tell you again how to get beyond this, how to recognize this, the web method, and how to communicate with these people, given the CARS method. These are all Dr. Eddy's protocols, and I think they're very good. Okay, we'll talk about that again, but listen, this is no secret. Go back 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks prior to this show, and give a listen, because then you can hear those things already. Number 20. Well, I'm going to say that later, so I'll just skip ahead. Number 20. High conflict individuals may engage administrative or legal procedures against their targets of blame. They are sue happy, guys. A lot of times they are. They will threaten lawsuits all over the place. And they're big fighters. You keep in mind, they're a better fighter than you. They're certainly a better fighter than me. Why isn't that all right? I don't choose to be that kind of person. Do you? Don't be. The fact of the matter is, you need to know how to work with these people. And if you can't work with them, if they are really into the high conflict thing with absolutely no awareness around it, and it is impossible to work with them, then you need to not get involved, or you need to get out through the web method. Okay? That can be very hurtful when someone is engaging in those procedures against a target of blame. Now, you keep in mind, if you are the target of blame, the thing that saves you is not to be. Let me ask you something. Do you collapse when a policeman pulls you over for speeding or running through a stop sign or a red light? If you get very upset about that, you've got some target of blame stuff going on that you should look at and get beyond. Because you either ran that red light or you didn't. Why don't we just go on and grow up and say, yep, I did it, give me a ticket, or, you know, there's a little iffy point here that we can talk about if you're open to it. Okay? So I'm going to pass that on to you. I think that's an important point that, you know, now I'm talking in generalities. You keep in mind that if you were sitting in my green chair opposite my desk right now, I might be talking to you differently, but this is a general radio show, and I got to give you general information. All right? Okay. 21. High conflict individuals will constantly seek negative advocates to assist in blaming others and defending themselves. This is a wonderful phrase that Dr. Eddie uses. It's called negative advocates. Negative advocates are somebody that buy into the crap that high conflict people are putting forth. They're the ones that are coming in. They're the ones that support the cult leader. They're the ones that support the politicians and are the yes men. They are the ones that buy into the fantasy that someone is putting forth. They are called negative advocates because, well, for a lot of reasons. First of all, they're going against what they feel is the right thing to do. They're not reaching down there. They may be high conflict individuals themselves, but they may not be. They may just be someone who wants to be told what to do and controlled. But let me tell you, number 22 is a high conflict person. Well, thank you so much, sweetheart. Will easily turn against their negative advocates when they don't do as they're told. You need to know that. This is particularly true of the narcissistic and this is true of all the personality defenses. But if somebody is a high conflict personality, let me tell you, 1 minute they're going to love you, and if you try to express your opinion and it's different from theirs, they're coming after you. So there is a quality of needing to control with high conflict people, and they cannot handle it when you have a different opinion. I know a woman who is, but much better than she's ever been, a high conflict personality. And she would ramp up into mania, absolute mania, when someone just had a disagreement about something that they read in the paper or a different philosophy. Man, here she came, that ramped up energy. And she would try to intimidate enough to get the other person to back off. Can look like that too. I'm checking my time, guys. 26 more minutes. Number 23. High conflict personalities will demand loyalty from others and tell them what they need to do. Again, this is very controlling behavior. And this is a demanding of loyalty. What does that loyalty look like? Not talking behind their back when you have the best of intentions. It can be anything because they want control of it all. Demanding loyalty from others, telling them what they need to do. I think there is an innate problem here, and that is what's a breach of loyalty. You see, you may have the best of intentions, you may have a different opinion than the high conflict person does. It's in their head what their standards are. You don't know them. They don't self-reflect, so they can't tell you what they are. So you often walk into trouble with doing what you think is the right thing, because it's up here. they'll consider it a breach. Not only will they consider it a breach, but are they mad at something else that has not yet come to consciousness and they take it out on you? That can happen too. How do you fix all this? You become more conscious individuals, more emotionally mature individuals. You become more loving individuals. You become good psychologists, guys, where you can see people's motivations because you know your own. You have looked into those dark places. Only by looking into those dark places and getting beyond them do you not react to other people anymore, but you just see the way things are. That's where you can truly help, when you are a neutral person, a neutral witness, a neutral observer. And you can talk to people about that. You can even do energy work like I do, or other people do. But we got to clear you out first. We got to get you authentic, without agendas of your own, other than to live a loving, good life and be in cooperation with your highest self. That's your agenda. All right. Number 24. While they demand loyalty from others, high conflict individuals will not be loyal themselves, claiming they were betrayed. So they'll turn on you. Okay? They'll possibly have affairs behind your back. They don't think of that as disloyalty. You understand? Okay. So, whether or not it's true that you have been disloyal, you will be turned on. You will be betrayed. They're going to call it their betrayal, though. Another characteristic of high conflict personalities, you keep in mind, too, that I'm not vilifying the high conflict personality. I know many of them. Because I believe everybody is everything, I probably was one myself in the early days. Certainly I was histrionic, okay? You can get over all of this. But you've got to have the intention. You've got to have a calling to higher consciousness. You just do. If it is your calling, don't hesitate. Call my company or somebody else's. Go into this path. Just start somewhere with someone. It's the best thing you've ever done. I can say it's the best thing I've ever done. I can also say that my clients will say that as well. My advanced class, many of which are on my website, marthanovak.com. You'll see some people that are already qualified to work with you, and they're marvelous. So, by all means, go read about them. Number 25. High conflict individuals may be very secretive, yet demand full disclosure from others, including confidences. They may be very secret themselves, yet demand full disclosure from others, including confidences. It's not exactly fair, is it? I know a mom like that. She has now adult children. She always demanded to know every single solitary thing, and still does. One of her issues is she's got to know it all. And what does she do with that? She gets in there and she manipulates everybody with the information. Okay? And yet, she's very secretive because she never gets to her stuff. Very sad. So what's nice is that her children now have waked up to how she is. Okay, they're healing. That's good. But she, in the end, had no desire to change. Number 26. High conflict people may breach confidences about others when it serves their purpose. So while they demand loyalty from you, and that, for example, you must not talk about them at all, they can do that. And they don't ever think this is a breach of confidence. You keep in mind, I saw a show, I think it was Ricky Gervais's new comedy show, and I think he's very cute. There's something that while he says the most outrageous things, there's something rather endearing about this comedian, Ricky Gervais. I was watching him the other day, and one of the things that I was admiring about him is apparently he has a girlfriend named Jane, and he referred to her several times in the show, but not once was he disparaging. How many comedians have you heard, and by the way, even comedians at cocktail parties, that are throwing off on their partners, that are exaggerating things that are untrue, that are saying something negative about them? That's histrionic, by the way. I care much more about, as a high conflict person, for example, I care much more about how I'm perceived and that I'm funny and that I am the life of the party and I'm the center of attention than I care about my partner. I think that's rather unkind. So I was very impressed that he told some very silly, funny, outrageous things and said those things, and yet was very kind to her. I think that's nice. I get the same feeling about Eric Idle and John Cleese and some of those. I was lucky enough to see them in person, and they were lovely men. You just walked out saying, wow, nice men. All right. 27. High conflict people will truly wonder why so many people turn against them over time. Now, you keep in mind that they have people turn against them because of what they're doing. But because they don't say, look at what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing, and they don't go and work this out with somebody, people leave. And then, particularly with the borderline personality, they get the very thing they're most afraid of: abandonment. But, you know, I see a lot of people that define themselves as they'll say, I don't play games. I'm not a game player in my relationships. And my next thing to say to them is, define the games you don't play. What games are you talking about? Can you define those games? I'll tell you what those games are. It's everything we've been talking about for the last several weeks, not just in high conflict studies, but in the cognitive distortion studies that we've been doing. My darlings, these are the games that people play. The problem is we play them many times subconsciously. And if you don't think that we need to challenge ourselves first to get these things out so we are clearer and can attract a clearer a partner, that's the only way you're not going to play games, is to catch yourself on in the games you're playing and not say, I'm not a game player. Oh, for God's sake. You just don't happen to play the games that somebody else does. Or you do and just don't want to see it because it's coming out a different way. Let's get real about ourselves, guys. Let's just get real about ourselves. Let's just be who we really are, authentically. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are the aspect of God known as you, with all the talents and gifts and abilities of whatever nature you were born to have. Come on, let's develop those. Let's go on. Let's stop dragging our feet. Let's stop waiting. Let's stop being afraid. Let's just go on. Let's use all that. Let's stop trying to be afraid of being hurt. Realize that we can't be hurt unless we're hurting ourselves, and we are hurting ourselves by doing nothing, by making excuses for ourselves. These things are, in essence, excuses, aren't they? I understand them. But if I tell you the other side of this, which is, here's how to work through every situation in life on a higher level and be cooperative with spirit, so that there isn't anything like that to be afraid of. Oh, come on, kids, why not do that? Okay, moving along now. The high conflict person will turn, this is number 28, by the way, will turn on family and good friends in an instant. This is true of every high conflict personality, and let me tell you why. Because they're, in their perception, you're threatening their survival. You don't think they're going to fight for it? You betcha they will. They'd rather turn against you. You see, they don't have any real deep relationships anyway. That would mean that they need to be vulnerable to you. Right? And people that even are not high conflict form attachments and not true connections. You'll all want true connections, even if you have attachments. So we have to challenge ourselves and what we learned about love when we were young. We have to realize that nobody really knows what it is until they do. It's far more than the man-woman relationship. It is actually the definition of the energy that you use as your highest self. It is an aspect of your personality. So what does that mean if someone isn't loving in front of you? It means that you're nothing but love. Are you going to use it or not? It isn't about anything outside of you. It's about your definition of self. Now, that doesn't mean, don't be offended, but I've got to use these words. That doesn't mean be stupid. Another aspect of the ascended God is discernment, is seeing what you've got, is seeing realistically that other person, that situation, thinking on all sides of it, realizing who you are. Is that a match, no matter what you want, even if it flies in the face of something you want? Hello, Max, so glad that you're watching today. You see? We have to be discerning. We can't just go through life saying, I'm going to love everybody. You... Well, I'm crazy about you, I'll tell you that. I am not too young, but thank you. That's very sweet of you. Max just said I look too young for Facebook. Thank you. You're a dear. All right. So it's an unfortunate thing that high conflict personalities turn on people that are closest to them. It makes me very sad for them. It makes them very sad for themselves, I think. But they don't self-reflect that much in most cases. Keep in mind that the high conflict person, and you know, you've got the high conflict people that are aware or trying to be a little more self-aware, and you've got some that really close it out. They may or may not try to repair the relationship. I think it's a marvelous thing when we can all say, whatever I've done, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that for any fault that is mine. I'm sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry. I think that's a beautiful thing. Don't say that if it's not true. But if you recognize that you are some aspect of a high conflict personality, learn how to repair relationships. Learn how to work through problems. Be aware when someone is a high conflict personality that you're talking to, and whether they can do that or not. And don't keep hitting your head against the wall until it's bloody, trying to change them if it's you that needs to change. Thank you for understanding that. Number 29. High conflict people will have few, if any, real friends over time. We get tired. We do get tired of being around someone like this. We try to do everything we can. We try to be reasonable. We try to love them. They won't allow themselves to be loved. What do you think is going to happen? If somebody fully thinks of themselves and no one else, what do you think is going to happen? You'll move away eventually. Okay. Point number 30, and this is another aspect of the high conflict personality. They will not be happy most of the time, except when people totally agree with them. You know, to me, this is a very unfulfilling trait, ungratifying, and very sad, because we need to carry our ability, our realization that happiness is about who we are as love. If we are in that cooperative energy as love with what we need to do in this moment, what we need to see, learn, give, take, we tend to be very happy. But when your happiness depends on external circumstances, external people, and what they're doing, which, by the way, is completely uncontrollable unless you are one of these personality types and high conflict at that, you're not going to be happy. Why does everyone have to agree with you? Why can't everybody be right? You know what my philosophy is here, and I put this on the table for you to think about, to argue about if you'd like, but everything is true because somebody believes it. Everything is true. So we've got to learn how to be emotionally mature in our relationships with people and negotiate through things like this, because everything is true. So how, if everything is true, and if you have a different opinion than I, how do we both get what we want in this relationship? Well, that takes some sitting down and saying, here's how we'll do it next time. Are you in agreement with that? Yes, I am. Or how about if we adjust that? That's great. Let's do that. You see what I'm talking about? Good. We have to become more mature and more flexible in our minds. We have to move beyond the ego child's mind that tells us there's only an option to get mad or to intimidate or to do this or to do that, because basically we're afraid, which we don't want to admit. Instead of just saying, we had a problem, let's work it out. And realizing there certainly is a solution in that. But it isn't anything you learned as a child. It's what now must be learned as an adult. You see, I used this phrase earlier, age-appropriate learning, age-appropriate training. A lot of these things we were open to learning in our infancy and our childhoods. If we did not get this training, and by the way, I'm talking about training beyond what most parents even know how to do, and every child has, in my opinion, their spiritual path to walk and has their issues to learn, even in the best of households. We are having to learn it now. Why isn't that all right? Why isn't it all right to be vulnerable enough to realize there is more to learn, and then our lives will be enhanced and improved and happier and more peaceful and joyous, and by the way, more successful in our authenticity, in our realness, and in our true character, which is the love that we are. Guys, I'm going to finish this next week. I'll be here next Sunday. No, I won't be here next Sunday. I'm actually taking next Sunday off. So it'll be 2 weeks from now, which will be, what will that date be? It will be all the way into April. It will be the, help. Well, you know what I'm looking at right now? I think I will finish this next week. I think I will be taking off on the 10th. So I will be here next week, 10 o'clock, Sunday morning on the 3rd of April. And we'll welcome spring together. How's that? We'll finish this up and we'll go back to how to handle high conflict personalities and how to spot them and that kind of thing. I think it's a good thing for us to double back for that message. I want to thank you so much for listening. I am Martha Novak, and it means a lot to me that you all are here and listening to us, that we are doing this work together. If you all have any questions, you can contact me through my website, which is marthanovak.com, N-O-V-A-K, and that's M-A-R-T-H-A, marthanovak.com, and I'd love to hear from you. People are forming study groups from a lot of these radio shows. I am delighted if you do. I'm delighted to talk with you all on the radio about some things if you have some questions. So just know that we're all trying to help, okay? Now, let's do a quick prayer, put us all on the same page, get rid of some of the stuff we're allowing to go. And let's give new depth here to you. Dear God, thank you so much for all of this, you who are all we are. We surrender what we can of the lessons learned here that we know we're doing, and we create in our lives a deep happiness from within, knowing that you are truly all we are, even the lack of you that we've so believed in from the ego child's mind is all part of the whole, and accepting the good that is there for all of us once we get our distortions and our thinking out of the way. We are grateful for everything, for this beautiful world, for our lives just as they are, even if we want things to change. And we ask now that our energies be put toward saying yes to all possibilities and then no instead of the other way around, because if we say no first, we never get around to saying yes. Thank you, dear God, for all of this and for these dear people. And we say this prayer.
90 seconds.
And we say this prayer in your name, in the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of each and every listener today. Thank you so much. And so it is. Amen. Guys, we will be here next week at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to ask you to follow us and to send this around, please, to your friends, this link. I think it's on certainly Blog Talk Radio where you can send it out.
60 seconds.
We rely, honestly, on your getting the word out about us. So thank you so much for doing so and befriending us and liking us and all that kind of stuff. It means a lot. Now you guys go out and have a wonderful week. All right? Be brave, be true, be authentic, be real, be happy. Take care. Bye-bye.